Welcome back to another Beats and Bobbins episode, a video tutorial series on beat making and textile related projects. If you're joining for the first time, my name is Evan Roth. Professionally, I'm a visual artist. I make a lot of different things ranging from installations to video work, photography. I do painting, but this series is related to the things that I'm doing here in the studio for fun after hours, primarily related to beat making and sewing related projects. So I was thinking about doing some sewing in here today, but I received some requests for the Algorithm DJ Pro MIDI mapping for the Reloop Mixtour Pro and the Traktor F1s. This is something I've been working on, so I thought I'd skip straight to that today. So a big thanks to everybody that's been reaching out, leaving comments. These videos, they're not monetized in any way. They're just something I'm doing for fun and as a way to hopefully be contributing back to these communities that I've learned so much from. So thanks so much for your feedback. I'm really excited about this episode today. I've been spending the last few weeks refining this MIDI mapping, playing with it. It's kind of my primary setup now. The link to download it is in the description. I'll give you just a quick demo here of what it looks like and how it functions. So this is my favorite DJ setup at the moment. This is the one that I'm using as my primary setup. It's portable, it's modular, it's compact. It does everything I need it to do at a relatively low price point. So I'm really excited to share it with you today. I'm gonna go over how to use it, how everything functions, how to install it on your system, and how to make changes to the MIDI mapping structure if you want to customize it for your own uses. So let's get into it. So let's start by looking at the hardware. Sitting in the middle of this setup is the Reloop Mixtour Pro. I've gone over my thoughts on this in a previous episode of Beats and Bobbins, so I'll link to that in the description. The short version is it's not super cheap at 385 euros, but if you're interested in modular DJ gear, this really is kind of the top of the line at the moment, and it does more in a compact size than just about anything else in its category. It's a bit overkill, I must say, for this setup because a lot of the functionality of the Reloop Mixtour Pro, I've moved to these Traktor F1s, which I'll talk about in a second. If you're looking for a replacement for this to sit in the middle, I think Traktor's Z1 is a good replacement. This is the Mark II, the newer one, but even this is a bit of overkill. So I would look at the previous version of the Traktor Z1, and that you should be able to get online for about 100 euros used. Because really the only things this middle unit needs to have are the audio interface with the audio outs, the headphones in, headphone queuing, your line faders, your crossfader, and then your EQs. Everything else we're going to move to the F1s. And if you've seen previous episodes of Beats and Bobbins, you know that as hardware devices, I love these Traktor F1s. These came out in 2012, so they're 13 years old now. You can buy them new for 200 euros each, or you can buy them used for 100 euros each. They're a good candidate to be buying used because they don't come bundled with any software. They're made really, they're sturdy, they're not going to break down. So I suggest getting these used. And at that price point, you've got 200 euros for the F1s. And if you get the used Native Instruments Z1, this is a 300 euro setup that we're looking at here. In terms of connection, I've just got a USB cable coming out of the back of each of the Traktor F1s. Those are going into a dongle before going into the USB-C port in my MacBook. I have a USB-C coming out of the Mixtour Pro and going into a second port in my MacBook. And then I have audio cables going off RCA to the speakers. And I have my headphone jack coming into the front. And on the software side of things, we're going to be talking about Algorithms DJ Pro. I talked about this in the previous episode of Beats and Bobbins. I'm a big fan. For me, the two biggest changing factors with DJ is, number one, how good it is at track analysis. So you give it a song, it's going to pretty much nail the BPM and the beat grid almost every time. It's so good at the flexible beat grids for songs that weren't made with a click track or that were made before drum machines. And it's just saved me like 90% of the track preparation I used to have to do in Traktor. I don't have to do anymore. So that's the first biggest point. And the second big point for me is just how good this software is on mobile. And it's really changed my workflow. I'm able to do a lot more track prep and playlist prep when I'm on the go, so that when I get back to the studio with my main setup, I can just hit the ground running. And for my needs, DJ Pro is just so much more flexible, easy, and more fun to be playing music on that I hate to say this, but I haven't even opened Traktor since I got my DJ Pro license. It's not a cut on. I love a lot of the Native Instruments products. Obviously, I'm using some here. I use them almost exclusively in the music production work that I do. But at the moment, I'm fully jumped over into DJ Pro. I'm going to show you a little bit why I like it so much today. This MIDI mapping that I'm going to go over is what sits in between using DJ Pro with hardware that it wasn't necessarily designed to be used with. So the Mixtour Pro is designed to be used with Algorithm DJ Pro. It says it right here on the mixer. But Traktor F1s, these were originally designed to be used with Traktor. And so this MIDI mapping allows these devices to be talking with DJ Pro. I haven't changed any of the settings on the Mixtour Pro. So this MIDI mapping really only applies to the Traktor F1s, which I'm using as Deck 1 and Deck 2. You might even be using a different mixer in the middle, which is fine. If you are using maybe a Traktor Z1 or a Z1 Mark II and a MIDI mapping for those would be helpful, let me know in the comments. That could be something I do on an upcoming episode. I'm just going to walk through from top to bottom on these F1s how this MIDI mapping is affecting these hardware outputs. So along the top, these are the effects. This is the dry wet effect 1, 2, and 3. Along the bottom, these are the on-offs for 1, 2, and 3. This button is the sync. I'll get to that later. Just to show how this is working, I'm going to be using this with some Doobie Brothers, which I'm going to pitch down here so we don't get in any copyright trouble. Maybe I'll turn down the pitch and the BPM. So I've got this playing here. I have my effects set to echo, phaser, and gator. These can obviously be whatever you want. You can make those changes in the settings. I'll show how it sounds on my setup though. So first we'll do the echo. And this knob affects how long that echo is echoing out for. Echo is always nice to have too because it's post fader. It happens after you turn the fader down. And on the Mixtour Pro, whatever you have on your Effect 1 slot also shows up on these paddles. So I find echo is a nice one to always have handy. Effect 2 is the phaser. And then slot 3 is for the gator. Next are our stems controls. This is going to look familiar if you've used stems before. So we have our slider for drums, bass, instruments, and vocals. It never really was. She had a place in his life. I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I really love having my stems controls on line faders rather than on knobs. And just to show an example of this, if I was going to have just the drums and the vocals I'm playing on this deck, and I wanted to mirror that, if I wanted to do that just on the Mixtour Pro, which has that functionality, it would look like this. And so when I'm looking down and I'm playing and I look down and I see this, it's much less clear to me what's happening in the music than if I look down and see this. So this is why part of the reason why I love F1s is because they have these line faders rather than knobs for the stems. The top row of buttons here is for loops. So what's labeled as quant, this is going to be our on-off button. And then to either side of that are lengthen that loop or decrease that loop. So if we're playing, you can can set a loop here. Maybe 32 is too long. I want 4. You can bring that down while it's playing. And let it go. So that's how the looping works. I like it that I can just kind of keep my middle finger set on the on-off, and then on either side of that I can quickly toggle up how long that loop I'm about to either punch in or punch out is going to be set for. And there's also a shift condition for this top row where when you hold down shift, these become beat jump to go forward 1 bar or backward 1 bar. So it's a way you can navigate around the track quickly. The next line down, what's labeled as shift is really a mode shift. This goes into a separate mode, which I'll talk about in a minute. What's labeled as reverse, this is actually what I'm using as the shift button. These two next to that, the type and size, these are to move pitch down and up. If you ever wanted to set that back to 0, that's a shift. So if I hold down shift and hit the size, that'll snap it back to the original pitch setting. So those are for pitch down and pitch up. Browse is going to toggle on and off the full view of the library. The rotary encoder then is your browse to check what songs you want to load in. When you find a song you want to load in, you press down on the encoder. I can minimize the browse window. And now I have a different song loaded into deck 1. If I wanted to go back, I go browse, find the song I want, down, and now I'm back in here. The encoder has a secondary function, which is for BPM. So if I hold down that shift condition and I'm turning that encoder, now I'm affecting the BPM of that track. And just like the size button was a shift condition to reset the pitch, type is the reset condition for the BPM. So if I wanted to change that back to 0%, I'd hold down shift and hit type. And now I've snapped back to a 0% on my BPM. The pad section, which is laid out in our beautiful pink and yellow color scheme, RIP Fat Lab. The top 2 rows, these are our hot cues, 1 through 8. And then rows 3 and 4 on the pad, so this is pad 9 through 16. This section in yellow is always set to slice mode, or in Traktor we'd call it freeze mode. Sometimes people call it chops. So essentially it's taking 2 bars of music and chopping it up over these 8 pads that are always sort of at your fingertips and ready to be triggering. And that works whether it's playing or whether it's paused. So just to give an example. It's paused. And so I love having access to this slice mode on the top of the deck, not hidden in a menuing system, not underneath some shift condition, but always on top, ready to go. And this might be because I'm coming more from hip hop music. I love listening to sample-based music. I love making sample-based music, and having access at my fingertips to have these samples always ready to go on top of the decks, and something that I can do in the headphones queuing real time. So if I have a beat playing on deck 2, for example, maybe we have just the drums. Then if I'm in the headphones and I can quickly be figuring out a pattern that I might be wanting to play over these drums so that when it comes back in, then it makes this system where I can be improvising this as a transition or maybe as a sort of remix or a cut up version of the song. And it's something I like having access to. I like that it's always here. It's always ready to go. And the other thing I really like about having slice mode be sort of front and center in this MIDI mapping is that I find it's a really good visual feedback tool for understanding different things that are going on in music without having to hear anything. So in a very basic sense, I can look at this and I know it's playing. I can see that yellow square moving across the grid, and kind of like the vinyl platter would be spinning, and I know it's on. This is a way very quickly where, number one, I know that the music is playing, The second thing I can see very quickly is whether it's on grid or whether it's off grid. So if I'm watching this and I'm really listening to it, I can see that the beat grid is right. So that's kind of the second thing that I can tell. A third thing I can tell is that the one beat and the phrasing are set up properly within this beat grid. So if I'm listening and counting for the one, I can see also that my phrasing is proper, that I have the one beat set, the beat grid is set, and it's playing. Those are the three things that I can see really quickly just from looking at this deck from a distance. And when we hit this mode shift button, we go into this more performance mode section where the top two rows are all pitch play. So this is pitching up cues, and the bottom two rows are loop rolls. So manipulating loops in various increments. Let's take a look at the top two layers for a second. So basically whatever our last cue point was is now going to be mapped across these different pads going up and down. So it starts here, goes up, and then goes down. So you essentially have almost like a keyboard created from a single cue point. And if we change to a different sample, so right now that was this, if we use, and then we go into here. And so that can be useful in a lot of different ways. It can be useful for transitions, for intros, for coming up with a sort of pattern and bringing in the drums. And then the bottom two rows, these are our loop rolls. So this is going to be taking any given section. As soon as you hit the button, it makes a loop in various increments. So it starts with half a beat. It goes up to 16. And the bottom row starts with one beat and goes down to 8. And that can be useful for just playing around with different tracks. I like it especially for manipulating drum beats. So if we bring in a drum beat over here, and you get used to sort of catching the different elements. So we can start with like trying to catch snares. Or you can try to do hi-hat rolls. Or same with the kick drum. And so it's a way, once you get used to catching different percussion elements, it's a way to manipulate drum patterns on the fly. So we hit our mode shift again to bring us back to the front. That covers almost everything else. This last button, I'm just doubling as the sync. The Mixtour Pro, of course, has its own sync, but I left this in here. It serves as another visual reminder if sync is on or off again, but I also did it because if you are using a different mixer like the Z1 that only has one button, which can be easily remapped to a play button. Otherwise, no transports here or on the previous version of this. So if you needed a sync, it happens on the F1. There's a secondary function on this button as well, where if you hold your shift button and toggle that, that's going to bring on and off the quantize. And that can be helpful, especially if you're into different finger drumming patterns in any of these sort of performance mode or into the slice mode. Sometimes it's easier to have the sync off so that you're not always having to land your beats on whatever that grid is being divided up into. So that's an overview of everything I have included in this MIDI mapping for Traktor F1s as Deck 1 and Deck 2 for Algorithms DJ Pro. I have a diagram that shows all these exact settings and how the buttons are all laid out. That's included in the same link that you'll find in the description below to download the MIDI mapping files. So I'm sure there's some of you at the moment that are saying, okay, all well and good, but where are my jog wheels? And yes, this system has no jog wheels. I made this system for myself, and at the moment, I'm just not that interested in scratching. There's other things that I want to do. So I'm happy to be trading 2 jog wheels for these 16 pads, which I get these different tools for manipulating and chopping things up on the fly. I think that jog wheels are great, and I totally respect scratch DJing and all that. It's just not where my head's at the moment. And also, since I'm not doing it, they take up so much real estate within a DJ setup. And if you're not using them, they are these giant stop buttons, right? We've seen every DJ, no matter how good, best DJs in the world, you'll see someone catch an elbow on one, drop a pair of headphones on one, and it brings everything coming to a crash. So unless, from my opinion on it anyway, is that unless you're really using them, get rid of them, use that real estate for something that you're going to be using more often. If you are interested in having jog wheels as part of this setup, these F1s can live right alongside any other setup. My setup used to be that as well, actually. So you could take this MIDI mapping, still use these exactly the way they are, but rather than using this mixer, you include something larger that has jog wheels and you'll be good to go. Okay, and the last step here is I'm going to walk you through how to install the MIDI mapping and to make any changes to it that you might want to customize. So the first thing you're going to need to do is download the controller editor from the Native Instruments website. I'll put this link in the description, but basically you go to their driver and other files page and you scroll down to controller editor and download this and install it on your system. Second thing you do is from the link in the YouTube video, you download the MIDI mapping files. This is going to give you 3 files essentially. It's going to give you 2 of these DJ MIDI mapping files, one for the left deck, one for the right deck, and 1 controller editor file. The controller editor file is going to control more of the color and the LEDs, and these MIDI mapping files control all the MIDI commands. Then let's double click the controller editor file. That's going to launch the Native Instruments controller editor. It's going to say there's a device conflict because I have 2 F1s plugged in. So I'm just going to go ahead and unplug one. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Open, and then you can select that controller editor file. I've already got this loaded here, so I'm not going to do that. Once you do that, you can kind of repeat the same process for these. Just double click the left MIDI mapping file, and it's going to say, do you want to load it in? You'll say okay. Then you do the same thing for the right. I already have mine. And then now we need to make sure that the left MIDI mapping file goes to deck 1 and the right goes to deck 2. So let's go ahead and plug back in this. So we've got both plugged in now. If you don't see this lighting up immediately to the pink and yellow that you see on mine, you might have to put your F1s into MIDI mode. To do that, you just hold down Shift and hit Browse. Now we need to go and make sure that this is left and this is right. This is deck 1, this is deck 2. So go into DJ Pro, go to MIDI, just select the first F1 on the list here. Then click some buttons on the left pad and click some buttons on the right pad. See how when I click the ones on the right pad, it's updating that list? That means that this is controlling that file. So set this to the right deck and hit OK. Then I'll go to the second listing for F1. And when I click buttons on the left deck, we can see that it's updating on the left. So I know that that is my left deck, and we'll hit OK. And now if I hit a cue point on the left pad, it's doing deck 1. And if I do a cue point on the right pad, it's doing deck 2. So I've got both of these set up with the right MIDI mapping files. Now the next thing is if you wanted to do any customization to these files, here's the way to do that. You will open those up. So we'll go into MIDI. We'll go into Configure. We'll make sure we know this is my right deck. I can tell because when I hit a button, it's updating that list on the right. Then let's say I wanted to add a BPM tap button. And let's do it with a shift on the browse button. So if you hit what our shift button is now, you can see that it's showing up as target is general, and then the action is controller shift key. So that's right. So if I hold that down and hit browse, we can see that it is a blank listing here. It's on deck 2, which is right. But let's take that and let's drop this down to BPM tap. So now when I hold shift and browse, I'm doing a BPM tap on deck 2, so that now if I want to set the BPM, remember it's a shift and turn, but if I wanted to do it, I could also tap in and you'll see the BPM update slightly. Okay. So that's how you can make your own adjustments within that MIDI mapping file. So as you can see, this MIDI mapping process, it's really not that difficult. It's something I encourage you to look into. It's something I wish I would have gotten into earlier on when I was learning these digital DJ tools, because I really think learning how to MIDI map your hardware is part of learning how to DJ these days. It's the ability to take this hardware and customize it to the way that you want to play. And learning how to do it, it also makes you less tied into one platform, because switching software all of a sudden becomes much more easy. Because if I can take this MIDI map, which I've already done a similar one to Traktor, now I have a similar hardware setup for DJ Pro. At the moment, I'm interested in learning Mix, M-I-X-X. Phil over at Digital DJ Tips posted this. It's a really amazing open source software that's free. I want to get into learning that. And so if I make a MIDI map of this exact same setup for that software, I'll already know 95% of the controls because I know this hardware. I won't have to go through the process of relearning the muscle memory for that software or any other software I want to go to, because I can take that muscle memory I've learned on this hardware, MIDI map that software to match this hardware, and now that training that I've done and that muscle memory that I have on this hardware, it can go with me to any of these different software platforms. So just a quick note to say, MIDI mapping, you can do it, go for it. If you have questions on how to use this setup or ideas for how it could be improved, please leave those in the comments below. If you've got thoughts on what you'd like to see on the next episode of Beats and Bobbins, I'd also love to hear that. I've got some custom headphone cover sewing tutorial I'd like to do. I'd like to make a MIDI map for this Mix open source software that I think sounds really exciting. I've got a new tie back design on my 6-panel hat, which I could include as an update to that tutorial. So if any of that sounds exciting, let me know in the comments. Stick around at the end of this video. I'm going to just play around on the hardware a little bit, give you some examples of how I use this setup. So stick around if you want to hear that. Thanks so much for watching Beats and Bobbins, and I'll see you on the next episode.
I'm real conceited since first grade. I been that bitch. You got a girl, boo, it's cool. I ain't gon' tell her shit. We go together now. Mwah. Give me a kiss. Mongali kanga motema mpe banga makambo ti tina nini ondima te mongali ena
off. And if she ain't tryna give it up, she get dropped off. Let me bust that UE, bitch, bust that open. Might spend a couple thou just to bust that open. Bend it off, no joking, like your name Hulk Hogan. Niggas move weight in the South, but live in Hoboken. Bitch, I spit that crack, like I'm in that trap. So if you need a hit, then I'll get that back.
Shades on my feet, I'm on that Patron. So get